This is my channel, home of the longest-running educational series on YouTube. It's time to learn about Malaysia. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. In this episode, we're going to be learning about Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is a country that most people probably don't know too much about, but it's a beautiful place with an interesting culture and history. So get ready for another fun episode of Crash Course Geography. As always, if you want to go deeper into this topic, check out the resources in the description. Okay, let's get into this episode. As we start this episode, I want to acknowledge the traditional and ongoing custodians of the lands we're talking about today, the indigenous peoples of Malaysia. For the Malays, the indigenous peoples can be traced back to the 4th century CE. The word Malay comes from the term Makadisho, meaning those who inhabit the land. During the 8th century, the Srivijaya Empire was located just south of modern-day Malaysia on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. The empire controlled important trade routes and had close ties with China. But around the 12th century, the Srivijaya Empire fell, and many of its people fled north to what is today Malaysia. They built new city-states along the coast. The Malay kingdoms were known for their wealth due to their control of the lucrative spice trade. One of the most powerful of these city-states was the Empire of Malacca, which reached its peak in the 15th century under the rule of the Parameswara. The empire's control of the Strait of Malacca made it one of the busiest ports in Asia, and the ruler at the time converted to Islam, making Malacca the first major Malay kingdom to do so. This would have an everlasting impact on the culture of Malaysia. At its peak, the empire controlled much of the Malay Peninsula and nearby islands, including Singapore, which was an important part of the empire until it was taken by the British in 1819. But Malaysia's history wasn't solely shaped by empires from within. Outside powers also had major impacts on the region. In the 16th century, the Portuguese arrived looking for a sea route to the riches of the East. After capturing Malacca from the Majapahit Empire in 1511, they ruled over it until 1641, when the Dutch East India Company captured it. Then, in the early 1800s, the British began establishing colonies throughout the Malay Peninsula and by 1826 had full control of the region. Initially, the British focused on using Malaysia as a way to supply the British East India Company with tin and spices. But after the discovery of rubber in the region, it became an important source of the commodity. The British divided the region into two separate colonies, the Straits Settlements and the Malay States, and ruled over them until 1942, when Japan invaded Malaya. During World War II, the Japanese occupation ended in 1945, and the Malayan people's desire for independence grew. A communist insurgency erupted in the Malayan states, while the British transitioned the region into the Federation of Malaya. On August 31, 1957, the Federation of Malaya gained independence from the British and became a constitutional monarchy. After gaining independence, the Federation of Malaya grew both through diplomacy and conflict. In 1961, the United Kingdom gave up its claim to Singapore, and the island became a part of Malaysia. As the Federation of Malaya was sometimes called, although the name of the country officially changed in 1963, tensions between the Malay, Muslim majority and the Chinese minority led to racial riots in the 1960s. This led to the creation of the new economic policy in 1971, which attempted to improve the economic situation of the Malay population. By the 1980s, the country had become a newly industrialized country with a strong economy based on manufacturing, mining, and agriculture. The government continued to focus on improving the standard of living for the average citizen. However, ethnic tensions still remained high. So in 1998, Prime Minister Mahathir bin Mohamad launched the National Development Policy, which focused on reducing the wealth gap between the different ethnic groups. In 2001, the country's name was changed from Malaysia to Malaysia, which means the Malaja of Youth. Today, the country is a constitutional monarchy with a parliament elected every 5 years. As we wrap up this episode, I want to take some time to talk about the term Malaysia. You might think that this is just a word that the country's leaders chose to represent their identity. But actually, its formation is more complex than that. When the country was first formed in 1945, it was called the Federation of Malaya. Then in 1963, it was renamed Malaysia. And the reason for the change in name has to do with the country's shape. When the Federation of Malaya gained independence, it consisted of the Malayan Peninsula and the islands immediately off its coast. But the Federation of Malaya didn't include the states of Sabah and Sarawak, which were instead a part of the British colony of North Borneo. These areas are separated from the Malayan Peninsula by the South China Sea, which is why the name Malaysia was chosen to represent all of the different regions included in the country. The name came from the Greek word Malay, meaning hill, since many parts of the country are mountainous. Although it might seem a bit odd to use a foreign word like this to name a country, this isn't unique to Malaysia. Many countries around the world have names based on ancient languages. For example, the country of Guyana is named after the ancient people who lived there. The country of Zimbabwe is named after the ancient kingdom of Zimbabwe.
Oh.
Malaysia is divided into 13 states and 3 federal territories. Each state has its own unique flag representing their identity. The 11 states on the Malayan Peninsula are Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Malacca, Negeri, Sembilan, Pahang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor, Terengganu, and Penang. The 2 states on the island of Borneo are Sabah and Sarawak. The 3 federal territories are Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, and Labus. Most of the country follows the equator, resulting in a tropical climate with high temperatures and rainfall year-round. However, the interior of the country is slightly cooler. Malaysia is covered mostly in tropical rainforests, although some trees have been cut down to make way for cash crops. Despite being so small, Malaysia is home to a wide variety of plants and animals. One of the most famous animals found in Malaysia is the Malay tapir, a relative of the horse that has a distinctive prehensile nose. Other notable animals include the Sumatran rhinoceros, the sun bear, the orangutan, and the proboscis monkey. Moving on to people, over 32 million people call Malaysia home. The largest ethnic group, making up 50.4% of the population, are the Malays. The second largest ethnic group are the Chinese, making up 22.5% of the population. And the third largest group are the Indians, making up 11.8% of the population. English is the official language, but there are actually 145 living languages in Malaysia. This is because of the diversity of cultures that exist within the country. Most of the population follow either the Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, or Christianity. Now let's take a look at the economy. Malaysia has a diverse economy with service industries making up a large portion of the GDP. Manufacturing is also very important to the economy, with food processing, electronics, and textiles being particularly important. Agriculture makes up a smaller portion of the GDP, but is still important to the country. Palm oil and rubber are the most important products. Malaysia is considered to be a newly industrialized country and has a high Human Development Index ranking, indicating that the country has a high standard of living. Now let's take a look at where Malaysia is located. Malaysia is located in Southeast Asia on the Malayan Peninsula and the island of Borneo. It is bordered by Thailand to the north, while the South China Sea separates it from Vietnam and the Philippines. The country is also surrounded by the countries of Indonesia and Brunei. Malaysia is home to some of the tallest buildings in the world, including the Petronas Towers, which used to be the tallest building in the world. Malaysia also includes the tropical island of Langkawi, which is a popular tourist destination. And that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed learning about Malaysia. If you did, please hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching. Chia.